All right. You're watching ETMarkets live stream. I'm Neha Vashisht Mahajan. Welcome to a brand new episode of ET Smart Investor, where we discuss about your investments and much more. Today, I have Sonam Shrivastava with me on our panel. She is the founder of Right Research, a SEBI-registered AI-powered robo-advisory and portfolio management firm. Thank you so much, Sonam, for taking out today and joining us today on ET Markets live stream.
Thanks a lot for having me, Neha.
So let's start with what is happening in the market, Sonam. Last week, the stock markets were quite volatile, and this week started on a positive note, but Nifty could not maintain the 25,000 level. Now, today also, we saw the markets recovering a little bit, and the markets were up around 800 points in terms of Sensex, but then we saw a fall in the markets.
Right.
What is your current stance on the markets right now? What is happening?
Right. So, like you said, that 25K is sort of like a psychological mark, right? Where you're
Hmm.
seeing the market is struggling to climb up from those numbers. But
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting. We are cautiously optimistic at that point in time. I think the market has a lot of strength, and especially if you compare, small and mid cap companies that are posting
Hmm.
earnings recently, right? You're seeing very good sort of momentum happen there.
Yeah.
What we believe is that in this market, when there is sustained volatility, you should have a focus on quality along with picking up trending stocks. So we are cautiously optimistic, but we think that there should be a focus on high quality companies, and you should be watching out for a lot of global actions, right?
Hmm. So let's talk about Q4 results also. We saw muted Q4 results this quarter, and Nifty 50 earnings for Q4 have also grown less than 6% year on year, not matching the street expectations. So, what's your take on this entire situation about quarterly results?
See, I think the quarterly results for, I think I sort of look at it, in a slightly encouraging way
Hmm.
because, what happened in the last couple of quarters, right? You saw, much lesser number of upgrades compared to downgrades, whereas this
Hmm.
time we're seeing much like there's an uptick in the number of upgrades that have happened, right? So I
Yeah.
think that's positive, and Nifty also is doing better than the previous quarters. We think this could be a turning point in terms of earnings across the universe, and I think especially in the broader market there've been a lot of positive surprises and some very standout earnings that we've seen in this month itself, right? So
Hmm.
I'm actually looking at it in a positive fashion.
All right. So let's also talk about global factors in play. So, do you think that only global factors are impacting the Indian markets right now, or it is more of a domestic uh, impact right now, or a mix of both? What is happening when it comes to domestic, sorry, global issues?
You see, I think global issues are extremely important, right? And whatever is happening in the global market is impacting the Indian market. I think,
Hmm.
especially in those stocks where you have global exposure, right? So recently, if you look
Hmm.
at it, Neha, I think pharma stocks were under pressure, right?
Yeah.
Because US is changing some regulations right now. Also, I think due to the increased volatility in Japan, in a lot of yield is rising in the US. The US Fed is not cutting down the rates, right? So
Hmm.
that is causing an impact in terms of confidence in the equity or the risk assets across the globe. But yeah, I think that is something that we have to be very very careful about. But looking at the India market or the Indian macros, there's a lot of
Hmm.
positives also. For example, RBI is pushing liquidity into the market, and there's
Yeah.
speculation there will be accelerated rate cuts. Along with that, we're seeing consumer confidence pick up. We're seeing inflation come down. So there are a lot of positives in the domestic market, and I think focusing, I think at least for the present moment, on companies which have domestic focus might make a lot of
Hmm.
sense.
All right. Let's also talk about some sectors. So, which sectors do you think are poised for growth in the next quarter or maybe the near term, and how to place your portfolio in those sectors? What is the strategy you think that investors need to follow right now?
Right. So, see, what we really believe is that, like you said, having a domestic focus might make sense. And what we're seeing is a very good move across industrial and capital goods space right now, right?
Hmm.
So I think positioning yourself across those sectors might be a good idea. Also, consumption play. I think consumption is expected to pick up. Monsoons have been really good, right? So focusing on FMCG sector at the present
Hmm.
moment, or consumer linked sectors maybe in the broader market universe might be interesting. Um,
Hmm.
and I think we're seeing a pickup in industrials, in defense and railways and stuff like that. So positioning around that would also be I think reasonable. I
All
think
right.
banks
Let's.
also, if we look at banks as well,
Hmm. Hmm.
banks is a very interesting sector to look at. So I think that is also something that we should be watching out for.
Okay, but do you think that investors should go all in right now, or should they have a different type of strategy as per the current situation in the markets? What should they do exactly? Should they go all in or wait it out, stagger their positions?
See, I think, we think that there is a lot of strength in the market, right? We're coming back from a lot of volatility, and the market is showing a lot of resilience. But
Hmm.
obviously, there are these global factors at play that you cannot ignore. You have to be careful about that. So I think this is the right time to maybe start picking up those stocks, which where you see good prospects, but some undervaluation, high quality companies which might be available at better valuation than before. So I think that is the philosophy that we should be going in with. If somebody wants to maintain a little bit of cash or gold in their portfolios,
Hmm.
that might not be a bad idea, or going to a multi-asset fund might not be a bad idea. But we think it might be a good time to start building equity allocation also.
All right. Let's now also talk about some sectors that could see a dampness in the near term, and how can one hedge against those sectors to minimize the impact also?
Understood. See, I think so. Some sectors where we might see some weakness could be the IT sector, right? We're seeing, the earnings have not been very, very exceptional for that sector, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
the valuations are also not extremely attractive. Uh, the growth rates projected based on global numbers are low, and until unless
Hmm.
there is a re-rating in the global markets, the sector might not see a strong emergence. So we would recommend that we stay safe until unless we see a strong re-rating in terms of
Hmm.
growth prospects across these companies.
Hmm.
I think so. That would be one. Another would be that you could maybe stay safe of some pockets in the PSU segment where we are seeing some
Okay.
overvaluation or uh, build up right now, right? So I won't
Hmm.
say don't invest there, but let be careful of valuations in some segments of the PSU basket where you're seeing overvaluation.
Hmm.
And
Do you think? Yeah, please.
no, I'm saying that you could, so the best idea would be diversify across sectors, and
Hmm.
that would be the best way to sort of allocate, right?
All right. So, do you think that a retail investor should be overweight in some kind of sector right now, or what is the right way to go about it? For say, if we are talking about this entire year, 2025, not just like 3 4 months, but
Mhm.
maybe a medium, short to medium term.
Right. So I think you could. I mean, an investor right now could build some weightage across industrial segment, some weightage around, let's say, electronic segment, while being watchful of the valuation. Some weightage, over weightage around the consumer segments, maybe across private banks also, right? So I think there are certain segments where you're seeing good moves, and people can start building some allocation in these segments.
Hmm.
And I would assume chemical pack, especially the agrochemicals, with good monsoons coming in, should be a place where you should be betting on. We're seeing good momentum in defense, railways, and those stocks also. So you should selectively start picking up some weightage in those stocks as well, right?
All right. Now let's also talk about particular stocks. So, which stocks do you think in these sectors? Maybe we can talk about the sectors that you mentioned about being overweight, and then the sectors that are poised for growth in the near term as well. Which particular stocks do you think that one can look at in terms of fundamentals and technicals both? That could be a great basket for a portfolio.
Right. So, see, I think let's start talking from, let's say, the industrial space, right? I think a
Hmm.
stock like L&T might be a good, on the capital goods space, might be good to look at. If you are looking
Hmm.
at defense, then maybe BEL and HAL might be attractive
Hmm.
stocks to look at right now, right? We're looking at agrochemicals. There, we have this stock called Coromandel, which has done quite well, right? Avanti feed might also be a good pick to sort of have a look at in this time. In terms of
Okay.
banking, I would say ICICI Bank, Kotak Bank might be very interesting picks to sort of look at the moment as well, right?
Hmm. So do you think that it is the current market situation is more of a buy on dips type of situation for the investors? Can investors actually go for good fundamental and strong companies with good fundamentals that are out there, mostly large cap, and they can go for buy on dips strategy right now? Do you think that is the right way to go about it?
Definitely, I think markets like these are the great time to actually start picking stocks at low valuation, right? So
Hmm.
if you've been looking at certain stock that you haven't been able to buy for a while, I think right now might be a very good time to start looking at those stocks, right?
All right. So before we close our session for today, let's also discuss a little bit about the outlook for market in the near term. What is your take on the markets right now? How should we look at it?
I think in the near term, I think for the very short term, you might see some consolidation in the maybe in the Nifty, like we are seeing, right? The
Yeah.
market is sort of struggling around the 25,000 mark, and there is global pressures that are causing some sort of volatility. On the other hand,
Hmm.
we might, I think, looking at the broader economy, broader market, right, small and mid caps, where you've seen very good numbers come out, right, where the growth prospects are strong. I think it's a very good time to start building positions in those segments, and I think that would lead to a good portfolio for the longer term. So I think there could be some consolidation. We don't expect anything negative per se, but yeah,
Hmm.
I think very good opportunities in the broader market.
All right. So, just one follow-up query before we close. For anyone who's joining the markets right now in this scenario, what would be your advice to that investor? How should they approach the markets if they're entering for the first time?
So if somebody who is entering for the first time, I would say that please, start with a diversified basket right now. We've discussed a few sectors, right, where we
Hmm.
think it might be interesting to allocate more.
Hmm.
You can work with a core and satellite sort of a approach right now. Build a core portfolio with diversified baskets, maybe in the large and mid cap segment, right? Maybe
Hmm.
with your multi-asset funds, and then you can have your satellite portfolio, which includes maybe interesting segments right now, for example, in the defense play, or let's say in the chemical play, or in the FMCG play, with the good monsoons coming in, right? And I think that
Hmm.
would be a good way to start allocating in this market.
All right. Well, this marks the end of our segment for today. Thank you so much, Sonam, for joining us today on ET Markets live stream. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining in.